Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times, a Prancing Pony podcast production. I'm the Man of the West. It's time to keep week 88 going as we finish the story of Túrin and wrap up Túrin Turambar Tuesdays here in Series 11. Now, last week before he died, Gurthang revealed all to Nienor, who leapt into the water. This week, Brandir speaks too soon, Túrin acts rashly, and a sword has something to say. Then Brandir came and looked down and turned away in horror. And though he no longer desired life, he could not seek death in that roaring water. And thereafter no man looked again upon Cabed and Arras, nor would any beast or bird come there, nor any tree grow. And it was named Cabed Nairomarth, the leap of dreadful doom. But Brandir made his way back to Nengirith to bring tidings to the people. And he met Dorlas in the woods, and slew him, the first blood that ever he had spilled, and the last. And he came to Nengirith, and men cried to him, "Have you seen her? For Niniel is gone." And he answered, "Niniel is gone forever. The dragon is dead, and Turambar is dead, and those tidings are good." The people murmured at these words, saying that he was crazed. But Brandir said, "Hear me to the end. Niniel the beloved is also dead. She cast herself into Teglin, desiring life no more, for she learned that she was none other than Nienor, daughter of Hurin of Dorlomin, ere her forgetfulness came upon her, and that Turambar was her brother, Túrin, son of Hurin." But even as he ceased, and the people wept, Túrin himself came before them. For when the dragon died, his swoon left him, and he fell into a deep sleep of weariness. But the cold of the night troubled him, and the hilts of Gurthang drove into his side, and he awoke. Then he saw that one had tended his hand, and he wondered much that he was left none the less to lie upon the cold ground. And he called, and hearing no answer, he went in search of aid, for he was weary and sick. But when the people saw him, they drew back in fear, thinking that it was his unquiet spirit. And he said, "Nay, be glad, for the dragon is dead, and I live. But wherefore have you scorned my counsel and come into peril? And where is Niniel? For her I would see, and surely you did not bring her from her home." Then Brandir told him that it was so, and Niniel was dead. But the wife of Dorlas cried out, "Nay, lord, he is crazed, for he came here saying that you were dead, and he called it good tidings. But you live." Then Turambar was wrathful, and believed that all Brandir said or did was done in malice towards himself and Niniel, begrudging their love. And he spoke evilly to Brandir, calling him Clubfoot. Then Brandir reported all that he had heard, and named Niniel Nienor, daughter of Hurin. And he cried out upon Turambar with the last words of Gurthang, that he was a curse unto his kin and to all that harbored him. Then Turambar fell into a fury, for in those words he heard the feet of his doom overtaking him, and he charged Brandir with leading Niniel to her death, and publishing with delight the lies of Gurthang, if indeed he devised them not himself. Then he cursed Brandir, and slew him, and he fled from the people into the woods. But after a while his madness left him, and he came to Howth and Edleth, and there sat and pondered all his deeds. And he cried upon Finduilas to bring him counsel, for he knew not whether he would do now more ill to go to Doriath to seek his kin, or to forsake them forever and seek death in battle. And even as he sat there, Mablung, with a company of grey elves, came over the crossings of Teglin, and he knew Túrin and hailed him, and was glad indeed to find him yet living, for he had learned of the coming forth of Gurthang, and that his path led to Brethil. And also he had heard report that the black sword of Nargothrond now dwelt there. Therefore he came to give warning to Túrin, and help if need be. But Túrin said, "You come too late. The dragon is dead." Then they marveled and gave him great praise, but he cared nothing for it, and said, "This only I ask, give me news of my kin, for in Dorlomin I learned that they had gone to the hidden kingdom." Then Mablung was dismayed, but needs must tell to Túrin how Morwen was lost, and Nienor cast into a spell of dumb forgetfulness, and how she escaped them upon the borders of Doriath and fled northwards. Then, at last, Túrin knew that doom had overtaken him, and that he had slain Brandir unjustly, so that the words of Glaurung were fulfilled in him. And he laughed as one fey, crying, "This is a bitter jest indeed." But he bade Mablung go and return to Doriath with curses upon it. "And a curse, too, upon your errand," he cried. "This only was wanting. Now comes the night." Then he fled from them like the wind, and they were amazed, wondering what madness had seized him. They followed after him. But Túrin far outran them, and he came to Cabaden Aras, and heard the roaring of the water, and saw that all the leaves fell from the trees as though winter had come. There he drew forth his sword, that now alone remained to him of all his possessions, and he said, "Hail, Gurthang! No lord or loyalty dost thou know, save the hand that wieldeth thee. From no blood wilt thou shrink. Wilt thou therefore take Túrin Turambar? Wilt thou slay me swiftly?" And from the blade rang a cold voice in answer. "Yea, I will drink thy blood gladly, that so I may forget the blood of Peleg my master, and the blood of Brandir slain unjustly. I will slay thee swiftly." Then Túrin set the hilts upon the ground, and cast himself upon the point of Gurthang, and the black blade took his life. But Mablung and the elves came, and looked on the shape of Glaurung lying dead, and upon the body of Túrin, and they grieved. And when men of Brethil came thither, and they learned the reasons of Túrin's madness and death, they were aghast. And Mablung said bitterly, "I also have been meshed in the doom of the children of Húrin, and thus with my tidings have slain one that I loved." Then they lifted up Túrin, and found that Gurthang had broken asunder. But elves and men gathered there great store of wood, and they made a mighty burning, and the dragon was consumed to ashes. Túrin they laid in a high mound where he had fallen, and the shards of Gurthang were laid beside him. And when all was done, the elves sang a lament for the children of Húrin, and a great grey stone was set upon the mound, and thereon was carven in runes of Doriath, Túrin Turambar, Dagnir Glorunga. And beneath they wrote also, Nienor Niniel. But she was not there, nor was it ever known whither the cold waters of Teglin had taken her. And while there are a lot of things to talk about in this story, I think I'd rather end by coming full circle. When we began this journey back in late March, we began with Húrin at the Nirnaeth, his capture, his defiance of Morgoth, and the curse of Morgoth that Túrin spent his whole life fighting. It seems fitting, then, that we come back to Húrin at the end. I'm going to read from the full version of the tale. Here ends the tale of the children of Húrin, longest of all the lays of Beleriand. After the deaths of Túrin and Nienor, Morgoth released Húrin from bondage in furtherance of his evil purpose. In the course of his wanderings, he reached the forest of Brethil, and came up in the evening from the crossings of Teglin to the place of the burning of Glaurung and the great stone standing on the brink of Cabed Nidermarth. Of what befell there, this is told. But Húrin did not look at the stone, for he knew what was written there, and his eyes had seen that he was not alone. Sitting in the shadow of the stone, there was a figure bent over its knees. Some homeless wanderer, broken with age, it seemed, too wayworn to heed his coming. But its rags were the remnants of a woman's garb. At length, as Húrin stood there silent, she cast back her tattered hood and lifted up her face slowly, haggard and hungry as a long-hunted wolf. Grey she was, sharp-nosed, with broken teeth, and with a lean hand she clawed at the cloak upon her breast. But suddenly her eyes looked into his, and then Húrin knew her. For though they were wild now and full of fear, a light still gleamed in them, hard to endure. The elven light that long ago had earned her her name, Elithwen, proudest of mortal women in the days of old. "Elithwen! Elithwen!" Húrin cried, and she rose and stumbled forward, and he caught her in his arms. "You come at last," she said. "I have waited too long." It was a dark road, I've come as I could, he answered. But you are late, she said. Too late. They are lost. I know, he said. But you are not. Almost, she said. I am spent utterly. I shall go with the sun. They are lost. She clutched at his cloak. Little time is left, she said. If you know, tell me, how did she find him? But Túrin did not answer, and he sat beside the stone with Morwen in his arms, and they did not speak again. The sun went down, and Morwen sighed and clasped his hand and was still, and Túrin knew that she had died. For now, though, this wraps up this week's and this series, Túrin Turambar Tuesdays. Be sure to join me again when Series 12 starts the week of August 11th as I figure out just who or what I'll talk about on Tuesdays. In the meantime, please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can join the Content Council and help me decide what to do next series. And please join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Word Nerd Wednesday. Podcast listeners, be sure to subscribe to the show in your podcast apps on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button for the channel, get all of the PPP productions, and be sure you're following @PrancingPonyPod on all your social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.